My wife started sneaking around with the firefighter who saved our house from burning down, leaving me to find flirty emails and a note saying I wasn't enough for her anymore. Here's the deal. I've been sitting on this for a while, trying to figure out if I'm overreacting or if this whole mess is as messed up as it feels. I need to get it off my chest, and I figured dumping it here on Reddit might help me sort through the wreckage. Pun intended. My house almost burned down a couple months ago. My wife's been acting weird ever since, and now I'm pretty damn sure she's cheating on me with the firefighter who saved our place. Yeah, you read that right. The guy who's supposed to be a hero in this story might just be the one screwing me over the most. I don't even know where to start, so I guess I'll just take it from the top. I'm Samuel, 34, married to Claire for 7 years now. We've been together since our late 20s, and honestly, things were good for a while. She's 33, works part-time at a local boutique, and she's always been the kind of person who lights up a room. Funny, warm, a little impulsive. I'm more the steady type, I guess. I work long hours at an accounting firm, crunching numbers, making sure everything adds up. Maybe that's ironic now, considering nothing in my life adds up anymore. We don't have kids yet, kept putting it off because we wanted to get settled first, and looking back, maybe that was a sign we weren't as solid as I thought. Claire and I had our ups and downs like any couple. Lately, though, it's been more downs. The last couple years, we've been drifting. I'd come home late. She'd already be in bed, or she'd be out with her girlfriends, and I'd be too wiped to care. We stopped talking about anything real, just bills, groceries, what's on TV. I figured it was normal, you know? Marriages hit rough patches. I didn't think it was a big deal until the fire happened. It was late November, freezing cold, and I was still at the office finishing some end-of-month reports. Claire texted me around 8, freaking out, saying she smelled smoke. I told her to check the kitchen, thinking maybe she'd left something on the stove. She's done that before. But then she called me, yelling that the living room was filling up with smoke and she couldn't find where it was coming from. I told her to get out and call 911, and I bolted out of the office, driving home like a maniac. By the time I got there, the fire trucks were already parked out front, lights flashing, neighbors gawking from their porches. The air stank of charred wood and melted plastic. Claire was standing on the lawn in her coat and slippers, shivering, her face streaked with tears. I ran over and hugged her, asking if she was okay. She nodded, still shaken, and pointed at the house. It started in the basement, she said. I don't know how. The firefighters were hauling hoses inside, shouting at each other over the noise. One of them came over to us, a guy named Mason, mid-30s, built like he could bench press me without breaking a sweat. He had this calm, confident vibe, like he'd seen worse 100 times. Electrical fire, he told us. Bad wiring in the basement. You're lucky it didn't spread faster. We've got it under control now. I thanked him, probably too many times, because I was just relieved Claire was safe and the house wasn't a total loss. The living room was trashed, blackened walls, soaked carpet, the couch reduced to a soggy skeleton, but the rest of the house was mostly okay. Mason clapped me on the shoulder and said, "Take care of her, man. She's pretty rattled." He gave Claire this quick smile, and she smiled back, wiping her eyes. I didn't think anything of it then. Why would I? We had to crash at my mom's place for a couple weeks while the insurance sorted things out and the cleanup crew fixed the damage. My mom's house is this cramped little 2-bedroom deal across town, all floral wallpaper and decades-old furniture that creaks every time you sit down. Claire and I slept in my old room. Twin bed, posters still peeling off the walls from my high school days. It was awkward, sharing that tiny space again, but I figured it'd bring us closer. Instead, she got quieter. She'd wake up in the middle of the night, staring at the ceiling, and when I asked what was wrong, she'd just say, "I keep thinking about the fire." I'd hold her, tell her we'd get through it, that we were lucky it wasn't worse. But even then, something felt off. She'd pull away a little too fast, like she didn't want me touching her. When we finally moved back home, the house smelled like fresh paint and new carpet, but it didn't feel like ours anymore. The living room had this sterile vibe, new furniture, bare walls, everything too clean. Claire started acting distant. She'd be on her phone a lot, texting someone, and when I'd ask who it was, she'd snap, "Just a friend, Samuel. God, can't I have a life?" I'd back off because I didn't want to fight. Work was stressing me out, year-end deadlines were brutal, and I figured she was still processing everything. Maybe I should have pushed harder, but I didn't. Looking back, there were signs even before the fire. Claire's always been a little needy, emotionally, I mean. She'd get upset if I didn't notice her new haircut or if I forgot to ask about her day. I try to keep up, but after 12-hour shifts, I just didn't have the energy. She'd pout, call me distant, and I'd apologize, promise to do better. We'd patch it up with a date night or something, but it never lasted. I think she started resenting me long before Mason showed up. I just didn't see it. Anyway, about a month after the fire, I started noticing stuff. She'd leave the house more often, said she was going to the gym or meeting her friend Sarah for coffee, but she'd be gone for hours. One night, she came home late, her hair a little messed up, smelling faintly of smoke. Not cigarette smoke, but that sharp, woody smell from the fire. I asked where she'd been, and she got defensive. I was at Sarah's, okay? Why are you interrogating me? I didn't buy it. Sarah lives across town, and Claire hates driving at night, but I let it go. I didn't want to be the paranoid husband. The real gut punch came a couple weeks later. I was home early for once, and Claire was out running errands. Her laptop was open on the kitchen table, logged into her email. I'm not proud of this, but I looked. I don't even know why, call it a hunch. There was an email from some guy named Mason, no subject line, just a short message. Missed you yesterday. Same time tomorrow. My stomach dropped. I scrolled up and found more. Nothing explicit, but flirty as hell. You looked good in that jacket. Can't stop thinking about the other night. You're my favorite kind of trouble. My hands were shaking so bad, I almost dropped the laptop. I sat there for an hour, staring at the screen, trying to piece it together. Mason, the firefighter, the guy who'd been in my house, who I'd thanked like he was some saint. I felt sick. When Claire got home, I didn't even wait for her to take her coat off. Who's Mason? I asked, my voice louder than I meant it to be. She froze, her face going pale. What are you talking about? Don't bullshit me, Claire. I saw the emails. I pointed at the laptop. She didn't even try to deny it at first, just stood there, mouth open, like she was scrambling for an excuse. Then she flipped it on me. You went through my stuff? What's wrong with you, Samuel? You're so controlling. Controlling? I snapped. You're screwing the guy who put out our fire, and I'm the problem? That's when she started crying, saying I didn't understand, that I'd been emotionally unavailable for years, that Mason made her feel seen. I couldn't believe it. I'd been working my ass off to keep us afloat, and she was using that as an excuse to jump into bed with some wannabe hero. We yelled at each other for hours that night. The kitchen turned into a war zone, her pacing by the counter, me slamming my hand on the table, both of us saying stuff we couldn't take back. She admitted they'd been hanging out since he checked in on her a week after the fire, supposedly to see how she was coping. She swore it hadn't gotten physical yet, just emotional, whatever that means. I didn't buy it. The way she talked about him, the way her voice softened when she said his name, it was like a knife twisting in my chest. I told her to get out, and she stormed off to her mom's place, slamming the door so hard the new picture frame in the hallway fell and cracked. That was 3 weeks ago, and we've barely talked since. She texted me once, saying she needed space, and I didn't even bother replying. What's there to say? I've been rattling around this half-fixed house alone, sleeping on the couch because the bed feels too empty. The living room still smells faintly of smoke if you stand in the right spot, like a ghost of that night mocking me. Here's where it gets messy, eh? I told my buddy Jake about it over beers last weekend. He's known us since college. Lanky guy with a loud laugh. Always the first to crack a joke. We met up at this dive bar near my office, all sticky tables and neon signs. I spilled everything, expecting him to be pissed on my behalf. He listened, nodded, then hit me with this. Look, man, I'm not saying she's right, but you've been checked out for a while. Claire's been complaining about you for years, says you don't even try anymore. Maybe this Mason guy just gave her what you didn't. I wanted to punch him. Checked out. I've been busting my ass at work so we could afford the house, the cars, the life she wanted. How's that checked out? I stared at him, beer halfway to my mouth, and said, so it's my fault she's sneaking around with some firefighter? He backpedaled a little, saying he didn't mean it like that, just that marriages take two people. I didn't want to hear it. I threw some cash on the table and left, probably looking like a jerk, but I didn't care. Jake texted me later, apologizing, but it's been radio silence since. Then there's my mom. She's been calling nonstop, leaving voicemails I can't bring myself to delete. Samuel, honey, you need to fight for your marriage. Claire's just confused. She's been through a lot with that fire. Don't give up on her. I love my mom, but she doesn't get it. She's from that generation where you stick it out no matter what, even if your spouse is a total a-hole. I haven't called her back because I don't know how to explain that this isn't just a rough patch. It's a damn betrayal. Claire's mom, though? She's a whole other story. She called me yesterday, laying into me like I'm the villain. You kicked my daughter out after everything she's been through? You're selfish, Samuel. She deserves better than you. I tried to stay calm, said, she's the one cheating, not me. But she just kept going, saying I never appreciated Claire, that I drove her to this. I hung up on her mid-sentence. My head was pounding, and I couldn't take another second of her guilt tripping me. Last night, I hit my breaking point. I'd been avoiding Claire's stuff. She left half her crap here when she stormed out, but I went through her desk drawer in the spare room. It's this old wooden thing we got at a flea market years ago, scratched up and wobbly. I don't know what I was looking for, closure maybe? Proof I wasn't crazy? Found a handwritten note tucked in an envelope, shoved under a stack of old receipts. It was from Mason. You deserve better than him. I'd never let you feel alone. Dated 2 days after the fire. 2 days. She was already cozying up to him while I was thanking him for saving us. I sat on the floor, note in my hand, staring at his messy handwriting. My chest felt tight, like I couldn't breathe right. 2 days after the fire, I'd been on the phone with insurance, trying to figure out how to replace our ruined stuff. While she was what? Flirting with him? Planning this? I started thinking back to that night, replaying every moment. The way he'd smiled at her, the way she'd looked at him. Was it already starting then? Did she see him as her knight in shining armor, while I was just the guy who showed up too late? I couldn't stop digging after that. I went back to her laptop, still had her password from when we shared a Netflix account, and checked her search history. She'd looked up Mason's name a bunch of times, plus stuff like Firefighter schedules and how to tell if you're in love. It was like a punch to the gut. I slammed the laptop shut and just sat there, head in my hands, trying to figure out how he got here. This morning, I called my coworker Tom. He's this quiet guy at the firm who's always got random connections. Turns out his cousin works at the fire station. I asked if he knew Mason, and Tom hesitated, then said, yeah, he's got a rep, real smooth talker. Heard he's hooked up with a couple women he rescued before. Not a great look, but no one calls him out. He's good at his job. I thanked Tom and hung up, feeling like an idiot. Mason wasn't just some random guy who stumbled into my life. He's a pro at this. And Claire fell for it. Or maybe she didn't fall. Maybe she ran right into it. Now I'm sitting here, staring at this stupid note, wondering how deep this goes. Did she start this before the fire even happened? Was he sniffing around her before he ever set foot in our house? The basement wiring. Was that really an accident, or am I losing it? I know that's crazy, but my head's all over the place. Every time I walk into the living room, I see the new paint, the new couch, and I think about him being here, playing the hero while I was stuck at work. I keep going back to our early days. We met at a friend's barbecue. Claire spilled beer on my shoes, laughed it off, and we hit it off from there. She was spontaneous, always dragging me to random places like that dive bar with the terrible karaoke or that hiking trail I hated, but went on anyway because she loved it. I was the planner, the one who made sure we paid rent on time, who mapped out our future. We balanced each other, or so I thought. When did that stop being enough? When did I become the guy she couldn't stand to be around? I don't know what to do. Part of me wants to confront Mason, see if he's got the guts to say this crap to my face. I picture showing up at the fire station, him in that dumb uniform, smirking like he's untouchable. I'd probably get myself arrested, though, and he's not worth it. Part of me wants to call Claire, beg her to come back, work this out. 7 years isn't nothing. We've got history, memories, a life I thought we both wanted. But then I think about her sneaking around, lying to me, that note in her drawer, and I just want to trash everything we built together. I haven't slept right in weeks. Every time I close my eyes, I see her laughing with him in his stupid gear, playing the savior, while I'm the chump who trusted them both. The house feels like a prison now. Every corner reminds me of what I've lost. I keep replaying that fight in the kitchen, her tears, her excuses. Was she crying because she got caught, or because she actually feels bad? I don't even know anymore. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. I feel like I'm losing my mind here, and I can't tell if I'm the one screwing up by not fighting harder, or if they're the a-holes for doing this to me. Am I acting selfishly? Should I have seen this coming? tried harder before it got to this point? Or am I right to feel like I've been stabbed in the back by the two people I never thought would pull this? I just need some outside perspective because I'm drowning in this mess. Update. This is what has happened since then. So, it's been 10 months since I last posted here, and a lot has gone down. I didn't think I'd be back with an update, but things have taken some wild turns, and I need to get it out there. Life's been a roller coaster. Some days I feel like I'm finally getting a grip, others I'm just white-knuckling it through the chaos. Claire, Mason, and me, we're all in different places now, and there's a new mess that's popped up because of everything that went down before. Buckle up, because this is a lot. After Claire stormed out that night, I didn't hear from her for weeks. I was a wreck, barely sleeping, living off takeout, the house a disaster of empty boxes and unwashed dishes. I kept replaying that fight, the emails, that damn note from Mason. I didn't know if I wanted her back or if I just wanted to stop feeling like garbage. About a month in, she texted me out of the blue, asking to meet. I almost ignored it, but curiosity got the better of me. We met at this coffee shop near our old place, neutral ground, I guess. She looked tired, her hair pulled back in a messy bun, no makeup. She didn't waste time. "I'm sorry, Samuel," she said, staring at her cup. "I screwed up. Mason was a mistake." I didn't know what to say. Part of me wanted to believe her, but the other part was screaming she'd already torched us. She said she'd ended things with him a week after she left, that it was just a dumb fling born out of the fire and me being distant. She wanted to come home, work on us. I just sat there, stirring my coffee, feeling numb. I told her I needed time to think, and she nodded, tears in her eyes, but didn't push. I went home and spent the next few days pacing the house, trying to figure out if I could trust her again. The new couch still smelled like the store, the walls too bare, everything a reminder of what we'd lost. In the end, I said yes. Not because I was over it, but because I didn't know how to let go of 7 years. She moved back in a week later, and we tried. Really tried. We went to couples counseling, some guy with a beard and a notepad who kept asking how we felt about each other. Claire cried a lot, said she felt invisible with me. I admitted I'd checked out too, buried in work, not seeing how bad it had gotten. It was rough, but for a while, it felt like we might pull through. We started small, cooking dinner together, watching old shows we used to love. The house slowly felt like ours again, though I'd catch myself staring at her sometimes, wondering if she was still thinking about him. Mason, though, he didn't just vanish. About 3 months after Claire moved back, I ran into him. Pure dumb luck, or bad luck, depending on how you look at it. I was grabbing a sandwich at this deli near my office, and there he was, in line ahead of me, still in his firefighter gear. My stomach twisted, but I wasn't about to duck out. He turned, saw me, and gave this awkward nod, like we were old pals. "Hey, Samuel, how's it going?" he said, all casual, like he hadn't tried to wreck my life. I wanted to deck him, but I just gritted my teeth and said, "Fine." He smirked, swear to God. He smirked, and said, "Good to hear. Tell Claire I said hi." Then he grabbed his food and left. I stood there, fists clenched, sandwich forgotten, feeling like a fool all over again. I didn't tell Claire about it at first. Didn't want to rock the boat when we were finally steady. But it ate at me, that smirk, the way he said her name. A week later, I brought it up, casual, over dinner. Ran into Mason the other day. He says hi. Her fork stopped halfway to her mouth, and she went pale. "Oh," she said, voice small. "What did he say?" I told her, watching her face, looking for any sign she was still hung up on him. She swore she hadn't talked to him since they broke it off, that he was just being a jerk. I believed her mostly, but it planted this seed of doubt I couldn't shake. Things were okay for a while after that. Shaky, but okay. Claire got a full-time job at the boutique, said it kept her busy, gave her purpose. I cut back my hours at work, tried to be home more. We even talked about kids again, something we hadn't touched in years. I started thinking maybe we'd dodged the bullet, rebuilt something worth keeping. Then, about 2 months ago, the new problem hit. Claire started getting these weird hang-up calls. Phone would ring, she'd pick up, and no one would say anything, just breathing, then a click. At first, she brushed it off, telemarketers, wrong number, whatever. But they kept coming, always late at night. I'd see her check the caller ID, frown, then set the phone down without a word. One night, I grabbed it before she could. Unknown number, no voicemail. Who's calling you this late? I asked, half joking, but my gut was already churning. She shrugged, said she didn't know, but she wouldn't look at me. That's when I started wondering if Mason was back in the picture. I didn't want to accuse her outright. Counseling taught me that it'd just blow up in my face, so I waited, kept an eye on her. She got jumpy, started locking her phone, taking it with her everywhere, even to the bathroom. Last week, I couldn't take it anymore. I waited till she was asleep, grabbed her phone, and checked the call log. Same unknown number, over 20 calls in the last month, some lasting a minute or two. My heart sank. I woke her up, held the phone out, and said, "Explain this, Claire." She sat up, bleary-eyed, then saw the screen and went white. "It's not what you think," she said, voice shaking. She swore it wasn't Mason, just some co-worker from the boutique who'd been bugging her, some guy with a crush she didn't want to deal with. Said she didn't tell me because she didn't want me to worry, that she'd blocked the number already. I pressed her, asked why she'd lied about not knowing who it was. She started crying, saying she panicked, didn't want me thinking she was hiding something again. I wanted to believe her, but it felt too familiar. The secrecy, the excuses. I told her I needed space, grabbed my keys, and crashed at a motel for the night. Slept maybe 2 hours, staring at the stained ceiling, wondering if I'd ever trust her again. Next day, I came home, and she was a mess, red eyes, hair tangled, still in her pajamas. She begged me to stay, said she'd quit the boutique if it'd make me feel better, that she'd do anything to prove she was done with secrets. I didn't know what to say. I still don't. We're still under the same roof, but it's tense. Quiet dinners, sleeping on opposite sides of the bed. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop, for proof she's lying, or maybe for proof she's not. Mason's still out there, probably still strutting around in his uniform, charming whoever's next. I've thought about tracking him down, asking if he's the one calling, but what's the point? If it's him, it'll just reopen the wound. If it's not, I'll feel like an idiot for even thinking it. Claire's sticking to her story, and I'm stuck in this limbo, half believing her, half waiting for the next betrayal. The house feels different now. Colder, even with the heat cranked up. The living room's fully fixed, but I avoid it. Too many ghosts. I'm functioning. Work, eat, sleep, repeat, but I'm not okay. I keep asking myself if I should have walked away 10 months ago, saved myself this headache. The new problem, these calls, it's like a splinter I can't pull out. Is it just some random creep, or is it tied to everything else? I don't know, and it's driving me up the wall. So that's the update. Claire's trying, I think, but I'm on edge. Mason's a shadow I can't shake, and now there's this mystery caller screwing with my head. Am I in the wrong for doubting her again, or am I just protecting myself from getting burned twice? I'm lost here, and I need to figure out what's real before I lose it completely.
Thank you for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed the story and found something meaningful to reflect on. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss our daily updates on raw, real, and often intense family stories. Your support means the world to us.